Welcome. This is Matthew Gardner here, and I've got a unique and I'm going to call it incredible video training for you here. This came about by doing a client call, and it didn't record properly, so I'm just fulfilling my end to serve and present a recording to my client. However, I saw this as a great opportunity just to record a video that could be general for some other folks as well who are inclined to learn about this. In this case, paradigms is what we're going to be talking about. Pretty well just shifting your perception, and I think one of the best ways to put it is just changing your state of being, how you actually show up in the world, how you're being, and how in order to see real transformation in your life, it's going to require you to make a state of change. Your state of being is going to have to shift. So that's the primary basis behind this training, and it's going to give you all the tools and techniques. Well, there's so many, but it's going to give you some core tools and techniques that are going to enable you to get that done for yourself, to actually shift your state of consciousness from where you are today to becoming greater in whatever capacity it is. So whether it's in business and becoming more profitable or more productive, or if it's in a personal relationship, or if it's for your personal health, or whatever it happens to be, this is the basic structure that's going to enable you to change your frame of mind, your state of being, to become more evolved, more spectacular, more engaging, and just have more fun in life. So welcome again to the training, and you can already see my screen. This particular training is for private only, not public, so you had to be invited to specifically come and watch this, and it's going to be geared, nothing personal. I'm going to touch on some of the specific topics that we did with my client here. However, everyone who's watching this will be able to apply it to their life with great specificity as well. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is, again, paradigms, state of being, and that really boils down to two elements. And this is totally my work here, totally unique based on my own observations and learning, is the idea of involution and evolution. And what I find particularly interesting about these two states is that you're always in a constant movement or current of contraction and expansion. And that's just naturally what our life is we just naturally contract and we naturally expand. And the way that process works in our human life is differentiating depending on your state of being. So even when you're at your most elevated state, there are still instances of contraction and expansion, but it's happening in a different way than if you're in a lower state of awareness, where often your states of contraction will be felt with deeper or lower emotions, such like negative emotions, such as just anger or fear or anxiety or stress or whatever it is. And then your state of being will naturally expand and become greater, and you'll become more involved in that particular process. So that's what it's all about. It's sort of like a wave that continues. However, it's more of an outgoing cycle. It just continues to expand. So rather than put it on a sort of a linear straight line, it's more of these energies that just continue to spiral outward, and it's infinite. So you literally, as God, you never stop expanding, right? You just continue in your conscious awareness, continue to gain more of that power, more of that enthusiasm for life, and more of that just great insight in what you're doing, in how you show up in the world and how you evolve and how you naturally and just excuse me 1 second here. I've got to absolutely close this window while we record so that there are no interruptions. Fantastic. Okay, so what this is all about is how do you get so involved in your human nature that you can no longer see the larger picture of things. So the way this works is simply, you always want to have I'll just call it the correct level of awareness as to when you're observing a situation. So generally, the easiest way I find to approach things is to be able to view it from the top of the mountain, right? That can also be called from viewing it above the battlefield where you can never be harmed, right? So when you're seeing it from this more elevated perspective, you are always going to be engaged in a higher way of living. So even though you'll still go through that process of expansion and contraction, it'll always be from a more elevated state, and therefore there's just less bumps in the road. And you can always approach things with your authenticity and your natural strength, and your progress is definitely experienced, and it's also very observable, right? So you never feel stuck from this place. You always feel like, hey, I'm a God, I'm powerful, I'm strong, and I always strategically 100% of the time am able to arrange things in a way that work for me. That's the ultimate result from approaching your life with this particular method that I'm speaking about here with the involution and evolution. So I'm just going to go on to the next slide. This is sort of like an intro one here. So just go, okay. So we're on the slide. So this is what involution is, and it's really just how involved are you in a particular situation in your life. So again, it could be how involved are you with your business, how involved are you with a loved one or family member, how involved are you with a colleague, how involved are you with your own personal needs, just with your health or whatever's going on with you just personally. How involved are you with that? So it's kind of like, how close to you are you with it? And in this particular context that I'm speaking, the more involved you are with something, the more you're limiting yourself, right? So the more involved you are with a particular person, emotionally, mentally, we're to the point where it's becoming mentally straining, and to the point where it's almost becoming suffocating, which I'll talk about on the next slide. That is getting too involved in the situation or circumstance. So on the little chart here, we've got variable that represents the person or the situation or the circumstance. And on the other side, we've got you. So that's how close you are to the particular situation. Excuse me here. So what we want to do is first, I'm just going to give the extreme example of what can happen when you get too involved. So these icons are the same. The yellow is the variable. You, or not you, the variable is the person or situation. That the white circle underneath, that's you. So as you can see, this yellow circle has really started to impede on your space. So it's actually to the point here become suffocating. This is a literal suffocation, where the point where you can no longer see any of yourself, a mental and emotional suffocation. And of course, physically, that's having an effect on you as well. So the idea here is that when you're too close to a situation, when you're too involved in it, mentally, emotionally, physically, it's just really limiting, and you're no longer viewing it from above the battleground. You're seeing it from a point of view that is constricting. It's lower down the mountain, and it's generally approaching it from a more challenging way. So it's like you're trying to climb up this mountain, but it's muddy, it's slippery, you're sliding down. It's just challenging. You may have some mountain gear with you to help climb you up, but it's just not really working for you. And the more involved you get in a particular situation like that, then the less opportunity you're going to have to pick yourself up and move on. So the idea is, what you have to do here is create some space, which is the evolution part. The opposite of being involved is being evolved. So when you're evolved, what that basically means is you've created a space between you and the other person, or you and the situation. And creating that space, this is just such an incredibly profound and idea from the standpoint of how freeing it is, how liberating it is, how much power it enables you to bring in to any situation, anytime, no matter what kind of challenges you seem to be having. In the particular case with my client, we were discussing just having a certain level of anxiety before doing a public talk to a group of people, and we've been working on it to the point where it's he's pretty well resolved with it, and just needing some final little points to take it to the next level where there's just no fear, no anxiety, complete courage, complete confidence in his delivery and the people in front of him, and it's just pure magic. That's where he's certainly headed. And this is a great way to stimulate that type of result. So what happens here is you've got the variable on one side, you've got you on the other side, and rather than being locked in and limited, now you're moving apart here and you're creating a space, basically. And that space is happening on a mental level, emotional level, sometimes a physical level, right? But you're just doing all you can to remove all the barriers that are keeping you locked into the situation where you can't seem to resolve it. So, this is the problem, this level of involvement, and creating a space, this is the solution. So when you've created this space, you now have room to bring in a new energy. Now, straight away, when you create space, it's automatically creating a space for, I'll just call it positive energy, or clarity, or acceptance, or what the way I frame it, which makes the most sense for me, is you're bringing in this opportunity for God to get in between you and the situation. And when you invite that energy of God consciously into the situation, that becomes your looking glass. So if you see that you're here on the right side, this circle over here, now when you go to see the variable on the left side, you're actually going to be engaged in seeing it through the eyes of God, right? Because that's what's in front of you first. The nature of evolution is what's in front of you first. So you're going to have a tremendous level of power in being able to see this situation with greater clarity, strength, vision in terms of like a longer term result, a win-win resolution. And fundamentally, this is just going to grant you the ability to live, right? There's no more suffocation. There's no more limitation. There's just life. And we're just having life, and we're just getting along, and we're just doing it because we can. And the other thing I was going to say is when I talk about bringing God into this, the middle of the relationship here between you and this other person or the situation, it's really about bringing in the most supreme, highest vibration possible into the equation. So I'll just go back here. When we were in suffocation, we had an equation, and it was you and the variable, but it was the equation for chaos. Now that we come into this equation, now we have you, the variable, and we have God. Now we have an equation for authenticity, greatness, expression, production, productivity, effectiveness, results, greater experience and sensation and feeling. So it's absolute paramount that you do this. This is the only way you can ever create a real result, an authentic result, a desired outcome. This is the only way you can actually truly live, right? Because if you're living this way, inevitably, as you cut off your oxygen flow, metaphorically, you die, right? It's pretty well you can't have a real life without the energy of God present in your mind. Now that may, for different people is happening more conscious for other people than some people. But the idea is the more you train your thoughts and your feelings and your deeds and the way you live to accept this nature of God being the most supreme, glorious vibration that you can ever have, the greater that's going to open the door for opportunity and more life for you and greater expansion. So fundamentally, 101, you have to be creating a space. So what we're going to do after this conceptual training, we're going to do an actual meditation that's revised around how to put this into your life practically. So make sure you stay tuned right until the end here, and we're going to give you some great insight. All right, so this final diagram here just sort of shows the cycle here. So when you get involved, what it means is you're like tuning, diving into your human nature, just like a little bloop sort of thing. You're going in, and there's nothing wrong with that. The only issue that can tend to come up is that people spend too much time involved in their human nature, right? So this is a varying thing. Like you're going in, you're going out, you're always managing how you're creating this space. But the idea is you never want to get so close that you're suffocating. That's primary essential. Okay. So that's what I'll just call a contraction when you're moving in and moving out. So moving in is the contraction, moving out is the expansion, moving in and moving out. And this is just a great teaching that actually recently, this is something I recently learned and have implemented it and kind of made my own unique interpretation of it. And when you contract, then the next stage is evolution or expansion, where you assume your God nature once again. So the idea is, the example we were using was with my client, that little tiny bit of anxiety that he was experiencing right before talking. What we had him do together, we just closed our eyes. So you can do it now and think of a situation where you've had, I'll just call it a negative emotion. So it could be fear, could be anxiety, could be anger, could be jealousy, could be any form of hatred or anything negative at all. It just doesn't matter, but just let it naturally come up to you. Whatever the first thing is, just use that. And what you're going to do is just put yourself into that situation, right? So like feel the feelings about it, create the vision of what it was like when you're there. And, just relax. Now, as you're experiencing it through the eyes that you saw it through in the past, you're just going to allow yourself to experience it again for another moment. And now, as you're feeling whatever emotions it is, it may be the fear, the anxiety, just now pull yourself back mentally with your awareness 50 feet from where you are. So just you're right in the picture now. Pull yourself back about 50 feet. And now look at it. And now observe what it is that you're seeing. In this case, our client was seeing, the boardroom, the speakers, but now he was taken back and seeing it just in a bigger scope. And his individual body or perception had become smaller, and now his perception had grown to where he's seeing everything. So as you're seeing that, you're seeing a bigger part of the picture here. Just zoom out another 50 feet. This exercise should be very energizing for you. So if you're finding that it's tiring for you in any way or something like that, just continue to zoom out until you're feeling a sort of magnetism about what's happening here. And so now you're observing, and just notice how your perception has shifted, right? When you started, that situation that you were looking at seemed so significant, right? But now as you zoom out, you realize it starts to seem more like a word on the page, right? Before you were so detailed in looking at this one little isolated image. Now that you zoom out, you're seeing it in a much larger framework, and you're actually seeing it holistically. Whether you recognize it or not, you're actually starting to see, and I'll just open my eyes here, you can too. You're starting to see how this entire picture that you're envisioning is actually all connected. It's like before you started, you were seeing a piece of the puzzle. As you zoom out, now you see the entire picture. And it's like, oh, wow, there's more to here than I realized. And what you'll notice as you do that is it really leaves no room for negativity or for doubt or for limitation, because you're so evolved and expanded that you're no longer involved at such a detail where you can have those different vibrations, because those vibrations are engaged with your human nature. But the moment you zoom out, you're now engaged with your God nature. And I need to tell you as well that this space that you've just expanded to, that's where all the answers come from, right? So when you're involved like this is just a problem. And you'll only see, you might see this from different angles, but you're only going to see problems. But the more space you create, and you gauge it in a way that makes the most sense for you. I'm not telling you to go to another planet or galaxy or something. I'm saying create enough space so you can see this situation with clarity, and you can see it with the answer. And when you're inside this space, 50 feet back, 100 feet back, whatever, however far back you need to be, you're going to have the answer straight away. Snap. Straight away. And the reason why that's so powerful is because that means you're online 24/7. That means that you don't need to be spending inordinate amounts of time resolving something. It's literally resolved in a second, because you've gone to the space of your existence where the answer exists, right? The answer doesn't exist when you're so involved with that situation, but the moment you evolve and expand out here, now you know what to do. Now, part of the reason why you know what to do is because you've removed all these barriers of the fear, the anxiety, the anger, whatever it is. You've just removed it entirely, and you're just here to be. You're here to be engaged. You're here to live your life, and you're here just to share what your natural strengths are, right? Because you're never going to put yourself in a position where you aren't going to be an authority, where you aren't going to be in control of your experience, where you aren't going to live a fully vitalized experience in that moment, because that's what you're here to do, right? As a God, as a spiritual being, that's what your natural state is. So you never have to worry about not knowing the answer, not knowing the information, or not having practiced enough, or not having recited it. Just go to the space out here, and I'm telling you, it's infinite space. It's just like, here, I'll just use the example. It's like, I'm close to the camera now, but I literally back up. This is where I am now. I'm in the space. I've created space. The God energy is now fully present for me, and it's become my filter so that I can clearly see a resolution here, and I'm just back. And I'm just back here, and I'm enjoying myself, and it's all making sense to me, right? And what you want to do is just take this idea and apply it to everything. Every instant of your life where you're not feeling like, you're getting the full profit or the full payoff from your investment, just use this technique, and I guarantee it's going to elevate your perspective. It's going to change your state of being. It's going to shift your paradigm so you can see it from a completely different, resolved point of view. Okay, so that's that. So what you always want to keep in mind when it comes down to involution and evolution is that the answer is literally a moment away for you. Whatever you're looking to resolve, the answer is there with clarity. And you don't have to search for it. You just have to go to the part of yourself where the answer exists. So what we were talking about as well during the call was asking the right questions. And asking the right questions. In this particular case, why do I know I've got the energy to complete this call, right? To complete this recording with authenticity and power and engagement and appealing to the people who need to hear it, right? That's the form of a right question. What's that mean exactly? Why do I know that I'm healthy, wealthy, and wise? Why do I know I'm a great presenter? Why do I know I'm a powerful speaker? Why do I know I'm a powerful human being? Why do I know that in my life, everyone is God and they know how to use that power for the greatest benefit of humanity. These are all forms of asking the right question, right? Now, often people ask kind of the opposite like that, like why am I so poor, or why am I so unhealthy, or whatever it is, right? But I'm just saying, take that, flip it around, ask the right question. Why do I know I can snap? and when you do that, what you're doing is inviting in those higher aspects of yourself to give you an answer. So it might be an actual thought or idea that comes to you straight away. It may be something that presents itself in your daily life through a book or through a colleague or another person or on the radio or a song or anything at all. You can get these answers anywhere, but the point is, now that you're asking the right questions, you're setting yourself up to receive the right answers, right? And some of you may know about this system of the brain called the RAS, for short, reticular activating system. And the RAS is all about how do you find what you're looking for. And the best analogy I think of this is when you're looking to buy a new car and you've been thinking about the new car and you might have researched it online, or you may have gone to the dealer. And now when you're driving around, you just see that car more often. And you might even see the color of that car more often, depending on how emotionally engaged you were with that particular color. But certainly you're going to just notice that car more. It's not that you're not so much magnetizing it into your space as much as you're just noticing it more, right? Like whether you were noticing or not, those cars were likely there. But what's more important with what I'm discussing here is the fact that now you're just noticing the car, right? So the same applies to the answers. When you're actually looking for the answers in your life to resolve your issues, and you're no longer hanging on to your negativity, and you're no longer getting so involved in the human nature, and you're just kind of aligning that with your higher nature, with your God nature, then you're spending more time looking for answers, and naturally that's what you will attract, because your level of perception is based on, hey, why do I know the answer is always available? Why do I know that I'm my own answer? Why do I know that I'm powerful? Why do I know that I pull in all the resources and provisions I need straight away, always, no matter what I'm doing in my life, right? And those are the types of questions that are going to get you less, I'll just go it here, less involved, less suffocating, and more evolved into your God nature, where you create that space, you create an opportunity to receive the answer, and then of course, you got to take action on these things. So another point of the call, we were talking about the movie The Secret, which, doesn't necessarily do anything wrong, but leaving out some critical elements, the most important of which is just, what are your plans today? It's really great to have, the vision of, why do I know I'm abundant? Why do I know that I'm generating $500,000 annually in profit? Why do I know I'm generating whatever amount of money it is? Why do I know that I have incredible vital health every day of my amazing life? Those are really important things. But what's also extraordinarily important is, okay, now that I've asked the question, what is life showing me now, right? God being life as well. So you could say, what is God showing me now that I need to take the next step with, right? And in my client's particular case, he needed to carve out some time on the weekends to work on his business that he's going to be launching. And that's really exciting, right? But you just got to line up things in the right order to know, like, hey, if I put in some work right now, there's going to be a greater payoff down the road. I'm going to be generating more money. I'm going to have more freedom for vacation. I'm going to have more freedom to work when I want, wherever I want. And later on down the road, maybe I'll have a residual income from my business, or I can sell it off to someone who's going to nurture my business and embrace it the same way I did upon building it. So it's really important to carve out, what are you going to do today? Have your vision, know what you want, ask the right questions that bring it in emotionally for you right now. Like, why do I know, not in the future, but why do I know that right now I'm a multimillionaire? Why do I know that right now I've got the job of my dreams? Why do I know that right now I'm operating a thriving, successful business? Why do I know that right now I'm surrounded by great and profitable people? And then tune it in. It's like, okay, why do I know that right now I have time to build my business on the weekends? I have 3 or 4 hours to actually carve out and get this done. Why do I know that's possible? Why do I know that I'm connected with the right network of people to propose my business idea to, so that we can get it off the ground and get moving on it? Why do I know that I've got all the energy I need to make my dreams come true? Why do I know that I've got all the energy I need to get all the work done that I need to? Why do I know that it's natural and easy and effortless for me to work 12 hours a day on doing something that's fun for me, right? That I see a vision with, and that has a real sense of progress about it for me, right? So these are all natural forms of questions. So I think we're wrapping this up, keeping it 20 to 30 minutes. Timer on Zoom, which I'm using to record this, does not exist. So I'm just going to wrap it up here. And I think, okay, this is an important point too. When you're doing this stuff, it's important not to put any pressure on yourself. Okay, it's extraordinarily important just to realize, like, hey, I'm just living my life. I'm not focused on any specific outcome. I'm just perfecting what I am right now. So who am I now? What am I today? Right? In my particular case, I've got a coaching business that I'm running. I'm partnered in a digital marketing agency, and I'm doing 2 part-time jobs. And I'm working on a community humanitarian project for the local area that I live, right? So I'm not really concerned about where those things are leading, right? I use this 80-20 rule. So I'm about 20% focused on where it's going and 80% focused on how can I perfect it right now, right? How can I perfect each of those specific things? How can I perfect my life overall? How can I continue to perfect my health and well-being, my levels of energy? How can I continue to perfect my relationship with my woman, with my amazing girlfriend? How can I continue to perfect my relationship with my family, right? And it's not about saying like, hey, I'm doing something wrong or there's anything bad about it. No, like what I'm doing is absolutely great. What you're doing right now in your life is absolutely fine, right? But it's all about, okay, well, how can I take it to the next level? How can I bring in more God energy, more God power, more strength, more vitality, more health, more well-being, more abundance, right? And then how can I allow myself to continue to expand that vibration to serve more people and help more people? Because that's what it's all about. I do believe, and this will be the final point before wrapping it up, 20% of your time should be spent on yourself and working on you with your emotions and your affirmations and your reading and whatever it is you need to do to make yourself feel good with self-esteem, mentally, emotionally, physically. And then 80% of your time should, and you balance this in a way that makes sense for you, but 80% of your time is to be serving, right? Just taking those skills that you're developing on your own and giving them to others. And it's surprising. You don't have to wait till you're an expert. Just learn a little bit and start sharing it. There's meetup groups, right? Or anything online. There's ways to do it online or local, whatever it is. Just find ways to share it, whether it's family and friends. Share what you're learning and allow it to naturally evolve, and naturally you'll become an expert on it, and naturally you'll become monetarily benefited from it. But just start by just serving in the little ways that you can. It doesn't have to be anything extraordinary. Just even a kind smile is enough to change someone's day, right? So always be looking for those opportunities to serve and to benefit others, and do it in a way that makes sense for you. I'm not talking about draining yourself to do this, right? It's do it in a way that's going to profit you in mind, body, and spirit. But shifting that focus to be like, hey, like, who am I not to serve the world? I'm an amazing human being. I'm this amazing God. I've got all these powers, all these abilities, all these strengths to share. I must. And, as you start thinking, well, why do I know that I have the power to serve others? Why do I know that there's always an opportunity to be helpful to someone and for me to be energized whenever I share that extension with another human being, right? And as you start thinking that way, you're going to naturally find energy to do it. It's extraordinary, right? And you'll find that your level of vitality increases, your ability to be financially profitable increases, your ability to have a great business that you really enjoy increases, your ability to have great friendships with amazing people increases. So I thank you for watching the video, all of you. Of course, I want to hear your feedback from it. I absolutely love and adore hearing what you have to say and the benefits that you gain from this. And if you have any questions, I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. So I encourage you to reach out. And until next time, thank you and see you again. Bye for now.